Hello, my sewing friends. Let's make some pockets for little girls' dresses for Project Dress-A-Girl.
Woohoo!
I'm Jen and this is my sewing room, and I like to take pockets and zhuzh up my little Dress-A-Girl dresses. And I thought I would show you how to do 3 different pockets from one pattern. So I'm gonna start with a square pocket. Here's one on a dress I did. This is like a blank slate. You can embellish, trim it out any way that you like. So there's one, that's just a basic square. And here's one that's a jeans pocket, like the kind you'd find on the pair of jeans on the back pockets. So it's, yeah, like that. And then this one's got curved pockets, and I embellished those, trimmed them out with piping. So one pattern, 3 pockets. Let me show you how to do this. I have printables for you, but I'm going to show you how to do it from scratch. So the first thing we need is a piece of paper and a ruler. And we're just going to draw a line anywhere on the paper. I'm just going to draw it from here to here. Doesn't matter the length, but now here does matter the length. So we're going to go 6 1/4 inches up and make a dot. And then I'm going to draw a line from this dot down, intersecting my random line. Now I'm going to go 6 inches over, not 6 1/4 this time, but 6. And I'm going to make a little mark. And then I'm going to draw another straight line. Okay, there we go, like that. And now I'm just going to match up these 2 lines. So line up that straight edge right there, and that ought to do it. Okay, there we go. Now we've got 2 lines that are 6 1/4 inches, and these 2 lines are 6 inches. Now I'm going to label this the top, and I'm going to find the center by measuring 3 inches in from either side. Find it there, and I'm going to find it here. And then I'm going to draw a line. And I'm going to use that as a grain line. It's also going to be a nice center point line too. And then I like to draw another perpendicular line here and just use that as a grain line too. Now I'm going to label it Kids Pocket, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you want to cut one of your fabric and cut one of your lining, which may be the same fabric, but it might not be. And down here at the bottom, I'm going to line up my 1 inch mark with my center, and then I'm just going to put a dot here and a dot here, a dot on 1 inch on either side of that center line. And then I'm going to mark a little notch. Now the reason I did that is because right here we want to leave this as an opening. Leave this as an opening so that we can turn it inside out. So that's our square pocket. And let me go ahead and cut this out, and we'll make one of these. Now I'm going to make it in 2 different fabrics. So I'm going to use my regular fabric for one side, and then I'm going to make my lining out of a different fabric. There we go. There's my pattern. Okay, so let's use this for one side of the pocket. This is just some random scrap I have. And I'll just go ahead and use this for the other side of my pocket. wonder if this will line up. Yeah, it will. Perfect. Okay, so there are my two pieces. And I'm just going to put them right sides together. And I'm going to go over and I'm going to stitch them together, starting out where the notch is, going over, up, down, and to the notch. And I'm going to leave this area right here open. Okay, I'm all stitched. Now I'm just going to clip my corners. I'm not going to bother to trim this seam because it is such a small seam. It's only 1/4 inch. So there we go. Let's get all that out of the way. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip right up to the edge of the stitching where I stopped and started. I'm going to go ahead and clip these notches off. There we go. I like to know where they are, but okay, so I've clipped at my stitching edge here and here. So now what I'm going to do is what Nancy Zeman told me a long time ago that I should always do, and that is press everything so it sets the seam, and also so that you have a very crisp piece of fabric to be able to work with. So when I go over to press this, I'm going to press up my little seam allowances here at this opening, and I'm going to press them, probably steam them, so that this will give me a nice clean finish when I go to turn this inside out. Okay, now I'm all pressed, and I'm just going to turn this inside out. You may want to use a chopstick, your fingernail, any kind of a straight stick kind of thing, whatever you like. I do love to get a nice crisp corner, and often I will use a chopstick. Don't have that in my hand right at this second, so I may go over when I press this again and do that. There we go. So now we have our pocket, basically. I'm going to go ahead and press this again just to get it nice and flat and get all my seams rolled out and my corners nice and crisp. I'll be right back. And there's my pocket. Now, there are a couple of things you can do with this. You can fold back part of it, one corner. I would not fold it at a 90-degree angle, not like this. I found that it works best if you go about 3 inches up and about 2 inches over. That really gives you a nice slant so that you're not losing any of the pocket depth, because you don't want things to fall out of here. And that's why I did this in 2 separate fabrics, because it's important to be able to just see the other side. You could do them the same if you wanted to. At this point, what I'll do is go over and I'll top stitch this down so that it doesn't flop around. But I'll leave this part right here with no stitching on it. And then when I go to stitch it to a dress or any garment, I'll just go down here, here, and up to here. So let me go just top stitch that so you can see what it looks like. And that's what it looks like when it's top stitched. So you don't have to fold this back. You can just leave it as a square. And then as you stitch on to your garment, you can just go down, over. And as you go across the bottom, you're going to close up this little opening right here. So there is a square pocket. Now let's move on and make this a jeans pocket. First thing we're going to do is measure 1 1/4 inches from the bottom going up. So I'm going to measure that right there and just put a dot. Now in this case, I'm not going to mark this side because I'm going to fold it in half so I get a perfect mirror image. But I've got my center point down here at the bottom between the 2 notches. So now all I'm going to do is turn this and connect this dot with my center point. There we go, like that. And now I'm going to fold this in half, right along that center line, and I'm just going to cut this like this. There we go. And we have a jeans pocket. Yay! Now, I've cut off those notches where I was going to leave it open to turn. So now what I'm going to do is go over to the side, and I'm just going to mark a couple of notches. I'm not even going to measure these. I'm just going to put them not too close to the corners because I don't want to run into trouble when I turn it. So I'll just do that. So there's my opening. And so now let me cut this out. Let's do it out of this purple. Once again, you need one lining and one fabric. Okay, so there's my jeans pocket. And once again, let me mark where those points are. Actually, let me put this right sides together and I'll just mark those notches with a couple of pins. There we go. That's where my notches are. So I will know not to sew between these two pins. There we go. So just like the other time, we're going to start here at one of the notches, go up, across, down to the point, back to the corner, and up to the notch again. So I'm just going to stitch all the way around, 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, there's my pocket. I am going to clip my curves, not my curves, I'm sorry, my corners, several corners to clip here. Okay, and then once again, I'm gonna go in here and clip right up to the edge of that stitching so that I can fold in my seam allowance. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and press this because if I do now, then I will have a very crisp, clean piece to turn right side out. Here we go, and just like last time, I pressed this seam allowance up on either side so that I would be able to easily close it up. Now I'm going to turn it inside out again. And there's the pocket. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go over and press this and it'll be all done. And there's my jeans pocket. Now, if I were going to put this on a little girl's dress and I wanted to zhuzh it up a little bit, I might use some rickrack going across, or a couple of rows, or you can put it underneath and let it peek out a little bit. Now, if you're going to put anything across the top or anything on top of the pocket, make sure you do it now before you attach it to the dress. There's that one. Okay, let's turn this into a curved pocket. This time you're going to need something, some curved thing, whether it's a French curve or a lid or any kind of a circular thing will work that's roughly 6 inches. This time we're going to measure 3/4 of an inch up from this corner right here. So 3/4 of an inch, which makes it right about there. I'm going to put a dot. And then I've got my dot at the center front down here. Now I'm just going to curve this, and that's where this comes in. It's really nice to be able to do it, and you can just work with it. I mean, just kind of do, you know, the best you can. Like, I'm going to start here, but then I'm going to move that down so that I get more of a curve. And then I'm going to fold this in half, and as I cut it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flatten out that point there and then just cut it. And I'm going to go kind of a little bit more curved up into that straight line. Okay, and there's curved pocket. Oh, see, I need to flatten that out some more, don't I? There we go. And you just do it until you have it right, until you have it the way it looks good to you. And there's my curved pocket. I'm gonna leave these openings here, and I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this. And this time I think I'll just do the red. And there is our curved pocket. Now I'm just going to go over and do the same thing I did with all the rest of them. Right sides together. And start here, leave this open so I can turn it. Start here, up, over, around, and then stop right there. And just like last time, I've got my stitching going all the way around. I'm gonna clip off my notches at this point, just trim those off. Once again, you don't really need to trim because you've only got 1/4 inch seam allowance here, but you will need to clip some curves. Now here is where I like to use my pinking shears. And I do that because the zigzag feature of these does the clipping for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and just trim this with my pinking shears. Now you may want to just go in and clip your curves at about 1 inch apart. There, I don't even need to trim this entire thing. I think I'm only gonna go about that far. When you do this, you just wanna go about 1 inch apart and just clip around where it's curved. And that way, then you'll be able to have a nice sharp edge. Now, once again, I'm gonna go press this. Well, I gotta clip into my stitching, don't I? I'm gonna go press this, press my seam allowances up so that they'll easily go in there when I turn it right side out. But it sets the seam. You don't have to do this, but it gives you such a better result if you do. So I'm gonna go press this. Got my pocket all pressed. My seam allowances are pressed in. And now I'm just gonna turn it inside out. I brought my chopstick this time because it's a handy tool. I mean, my fingernails work just fine, but you know, there are other ways of using any kind of a stick, really, to get your corners nice and crisp, which we all know is a thing of beauty if you can do it. There we go. Let me just push that in. I think maybe that's the sharp end. Push that out. And this one, same. There we go. And one of the things I like to do on a curve with my chopstick is just go in and kind of just pull that seam out like that. Really get that curve out and curved. There we go. And now I'm going to go back over and I'm going to press this. And there's my curved pocket. Now, if I wanted to trim this out with some bias tape, I could do that. I also like to use piping. Piping works great on a curve because it's easy to put in because it's basically just bias tape with a piece of cord stuck in it. So see how easily that goes around? It just wants to wrap naturally. So that would be a nice way to trim this out. Or, you know, because this is bias tape, you can just go ahead and wrap it around and when you go to put it on your garment, you can just top stitch it right on like that. And that also will curve right around very nicely because it's bias tape. You can do that. You could tie a little bow with your bias tape. You could put it across. You could do all kinds of things with it, really. One thing I want to tell you to always remember is do not put your opening, your notches for turning, don't put those at the top, because you won't be top stitching this unless you go to top stitch the whole thing and then you put it on your garment. The top stitching mainly comes when you attach this to the dress, and so you won't be stitching that. So that opening will still be open. I guess it's over here, isn't it? Nope, it's over here. So don't put your notches at the top. Put your notches on the side or the bottom or somewhere like that. So now we have 3 different pockets from one pattern piece with just a few adjustments. So I will put all these dimensions in the description box, and you'll have those printables for the downloads where you can download these. These are a little bit larger than those are. You can adjust the size with your seam allowance. If you have a bigger pattern, then you can just take a bigger seam allowance. And so you can do that. But there you go. Easy peasy. The printables for these will be in the description box. There's a link there. And if you don't want to make your own, you can always go ahead and download those and then use those on your Dress-A-Girl dresses. Or you can adapt these for any kind of garment that you want to put pockets on. So let me leave you with my favorite scripture, which is from Micah, and it says, "Do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God." Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.